What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Rumpier Sports Hardwood Show. We're here breaking down the 8-game NBA slate tonight. And as always, at this point in the NBA season, tons of news, tons of injury situations to cover. And we are going to do that here today with one last man. I mean, our boy Big T was supposed to be on the show today. Not only did Big T ditch us for the MLB show in typical knee house fashion, but they decide to run way over time. And me and AP are here 10 minutes late. Just a lot of disrespect, man. But you know what? Me and you are going to get through it. We're going to talk through the slate and give the people some winners today, right?
Yes, we are. I mean, pretty straightforward slate. Lots of news, but I feel very confident about the paths that we kind of have to go going tonight. Cash games, tournaments. We have some absolute smash spots. So we're going to find the winners, man. Very confident in that.
Yeah, it's a good slate. I mean, we got a majority of the news already. We're not waiting on too much. The obvious big news is Giannis is going to be out tonight. Got injured last game in that first quarter, so you'll be putting a lot of attention on those Bucks guys today. We got a couple other nuggets as well. Obviously, the Nets situation where Kyrie sat yesterday, Durant played. Well, now it's the opposite today. Durant's going to sit, Kyrie's going to play. So that's two of the bigger pieces of news that, like I said, we already have, so we don't have to really wait for too much more. Give me your, your overall initial thoughts here on this slate.
Yeah, so we broke it down on the bet show earlier. I mean, one thing that you can do to make the slate easier is I no matter how the news breaks, I think you can full fade the 7:00 game, which is Hawks 76ers. Give yourself 30 more minutes to plan your lineups. I'm very fine with doing that because we have a few very elite spots. Wizards, Cavs. We have the Blazers and Nets, obviously, with Durant out, Kyrie in. And the Bucks situation with Giannis likely doubtful. And then the Jazz situation, too, without Conley and Mitchell. So a lot of elite games. Full fade the Hawks 76ers. Make life a little easier and focus on these good spots.
Yeah, it's definitely a route that I'm going to be going today. I mean, I think it's easy just to cross that first game off and wait for what, I mean, as it stands now, we have a majority of the news that we need to build teams, but you never know. I mean, there's going to be a lineup where we probably don't have the starters. This day and age in the NBA, another piece of news can obviously pop up. Another guy can rest out of nowhere. So buying yourself an extra 30 minutes, I think, is clearly the route to go. Before we go ahead and hop into these games, just wanted to shout out some of the winners that the Rumpier Sports team had last night. We had two 5-figure wins last night, 10K apiece for our boy Adam Ashby and Brad Crooks. They both took down right around 10K, a little more than 10K actually. So congratulations to those two guys on their big wins last night. If you want to join the Rumpier Sports team, we still have the promo going, RPS Heater 25. Gets you 25% off your first payment at Rumpier Sports on any monthly package that we have up on the site. You can get the DFS side, $80 a month. The DFS plus bets combo monthly package, $100 a month. Use that promo code RPS Heater 25. You get 25% off that first payment over there. And like I always say on the show, I mean, we're a little bit different than some of the other sites around the industry where every single sport is included in our monthly package. We don't upcharge for different sports. We don't upcharge when new sports start. One price gets you everything on the website, even the secondary kind of, not the main sports, UFC, NASCAR, tennis, all every sport, one price. So head on over to Rumpier Sports, check us out. That promo code is RPS Heater 25. Let's go ahead and hop into the slate since the MLB crew decided to short us about 10 to 15 minutes. We'll get right into that first game, and it's the Hawks and the 76ers. And we kind of already talked about it where, this is the standalone 7 p.m. Eastern game. And, it's actually one of the games that I have the least amount of interest in. I mean, we have a lot of very good situations on the slate. Now, this could change because they do have quite a few guys listed as questionable. Bogdanovich, questionable. Clint Capella, questionable. Trae Young, also listed as questionable. Herder's out, Hunter's out. So, I mean, we could end up in a spot here where the Hawks end up being a pretty thin team. We'd have to circle back, and then reanalyze the situation. But as it stands now, I mean, I expect at least a couple of these guys to play. So I'm going to be, off the Hawks. Like I said, unless the news changes on the 76ers side, they're going to have all their guys. And, with this slate where we have so much elite value, I just see no reason to go to a team that's a 10-point favorite here. And they're basically at full health when we have these other spots where there's, significant injury news. Just talk to me here overall. I know you already said that you plan on most likely fading this game. If these Hawks guys are ruled out, will you change your opinion here?
Yeah, I mean, so these teams just played. Philly won by 46 points. It was not even close at all. Capella played. Bogdanovich and Young did not play. You can make the case. Like, I think Bogdanovich is the key. If he plays, maybe it's a slight upgrade, but not to the Hawks side, in my opinion. It would be an upgrade to maybe Joel Embiid. The argument and the idea there is if the game stays closer, it's going to give Joel Embiid more minutes. But honestly, like the matchup against Capella, if Capella plays, is not the easiest down low anyway. So it's a full fade for me. Even if like Trae Young plays, I think we have better spots on the slate. And if Trae Young plays, he hasn't even been that good. So like I'm not playing him no matter what, especially in this matchup against a good defensive team like the 76ers. I think it's an easy fade all around. And if it beats me, I guess it beats me, as we often say.
Yeah, and it's fine. And like I said, it's so important to buy yourself that extra time, especially if like there's nothing that stands out as like a stone cold lock to you in this game. Any fringe sort of play in this game, I think it's best just to push aside and just wait. You got the 30 extra minutes to really make your final decision. So I'm with you. Now, if all those guys are out for the Hawks and maybe, I'd reconsider, we should get this news maybe at some point here on the show. We'll definitely talk about it as it comes through. Next game on the slate is another one that I don't have a ton of interest in. We have the Spurs, we have the Celtics, a 221 total. Boston favored by 4.5 in this game. On the San Antonio side, I mean, they are a team that we really haven't been targeting all that much for DFS purposes. Very unpredictable team. And that's the reason why we've kind of been off them a little bit. The one exception today would be Devin Vassell, potentially, if he's in the starting lineup, which he should be, 3.1K. But I do think we have better full punt plays today. You don't necessarily have to go here. On the Celtics side, we were playing those guys when they were pretty thin. They're getting closer here to full strength. Obviously, no Kemba Walker for them, but still they have Smart, Fournier. They're mixing in more. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. So they have 4 pretty key guys. So it makes it pretty difficult for DFS purposes to really target these guys at full price tags. I mean, these guys have elevated basically full price tags. So I'm not really going to be on this game, I don't think, at all. Maybe Devin Vassell if you're MMing. If you're building a ton of teams, I think you can look to him, keep him in the player pool. Outside of him, this game is one that I'm going to be fading as well.
Yeah, Vassell is a guy that I expect him to get the start. The problem is he lost run to Lonnie Walker last game. Lonnie Walker closed over Vassell, so that's going to be a risk there. And then with Pop anyway, you have Patty Mills, who could also steal minutes. There's so many different routes that Pop could go, especially in a matchup against the Celtics. I do think this game stays competitive. If I had interest, maybe like a sprinkle of DeJounte Murray without White in there. He's obviously out for the season with an ankle injury. The other thing on the Celtics side, one thing that we talked about on the bet show is that whenever Kemba's out, it does open up offensive scoring usage for Jason Tatum. He does have a nice ceiling. So if you're in tournaments and you want a guy that's going to be maybe 5% owned because of his big price tag, Jason Tatum's that guy. If this game stays close and if it holds true to its total of 221, I could see Tatum putting up a big score that maybe outshines like a chalkier Chris Middleton and obviously a better Smart in some of these other plays. But I do think it's like a fringe tournament play for sure. So I'm kind of with you on both of these first 2 games.
Yeah, not a ton of elite plays. And I mean, honestly, we only have one more 7:30 Eastern game. So, I mean, we have an opportunity to have a lot of flexibility with our lineups going into some of these later games on the slate. Before we hop into the next one, please do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Helps us to continue to bring you guys these shows on a daily basis, covering multiple sports. So please do us a favor, hit the like, hit the subscribe. If you haven't checked it out yet, we have a podcast that goes out, basically a first look podcast. Our boy Draft Cheat heads that up. They're breaking down the MLB slate, kind of like a first look type thing. Draft Cheat brings on one of our contributors every single day to talk about it. It's been a hit. I know a lot of people are checking it out. So if you haven't done so yet, check it out. It's just Run Pure Sports is the name of the podcast. You can get on Apple, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast. So check that out. Let's hop into this next one. Got the Wizards. We have the Cavs, 229 total. Washington favored by 6.5 in this game. And after a somewhat disappointing performance 2 games ago against this Cleveland team, where Westbrook only had 40 fantasy points, he's proceeded to get back on track. 65, 70 fantasy points in his last 2 games. Just playing a ton of minutes right now. I mean, 42 minutes, 41 minutes. He's 11K on DK. I think he's firmly in the conversation tonight, a guy we can definitely look to in all formats. As for the rest of the Wizards guys, not a ton of interest. I mean, Bradley Beal is always a guy you can look to, I think, more in tournaments where you're not playing Russ. Outside of those 2 guys, I don't think you really need to look at anyone else on the Wizards. On the Cavs side, kind of waiting for the Colin Sexton news. Could change things a little bit. He's officially listed as questionable. They'll be without Hartenstein. They'll be without Lamar Stevens. They'll be without Larry Nance and without Matthew Dellavedova. Talked about it a little bit before we hopped on here, and the minutes are finally appear to be inching up for Kevin Love. He played 35 minutes last game. He only went 2 for 11 shooting, still finished with 35 fantasy points. Kevin Love's going to play 35 minutes, especially in this matchup. I'm going to have some interest in him. The price on DK, I think, is still very affordable at 6.5K. I like Jared Allen as well, 6.4K. A lot of minutes for him too, 37 minutes. He's a guy that has big upside. I definitely have some interest in Jared Allen. Those are probably the only 2 guys that I like for Cleveland, regardless of the situation with Sexton. If Sexton is out, I think both those guys get a bump. You look at a guy like Darius Garland, the price is full now. He's 8K on DK. So really the only guys I'm looking to in this game are obviously Russell Westbrook. I like Kevin Love because of those minutes, and then Jared Allen because of his upside. What are you thinking here in this Wizards-Cavs game?
Yeah, I mean, here the first thing that comes to mind is just thinking about chat when Westbrook was, I mean, he was chalk and he busted hard against the Cavs. And I mean, man, we got to give him some slack. He's been crushing it. Like, he has been a 60-plus DraftKings point machine for like the longest time. Like, I mean, if you go back and look at the last 15 games, I bet he's hit 60 or more, probably 13 of the last 15 games. So obviously a very elite spot, nice bounce back spot in a matchup he underwhelmed in last time. The Wizards won by 9, I believe, in that game. Pace is going to be good. The one guy, on the Cavs side, Darius Garland, he's 8K now. Like, I don't know if I can pay that price tag for him. Even if Sexton's out, it's a tough, like, the Cavs side, even if we have a tight rotation, like if Sexton's out, you got to think that Chetty would get the start there with Okoro, Love, Allen. A lot of those guys, high price tags. Jared Allen was very good in this matchup beforehand. His price is up there too. Like, he's shown that he can absolutely bust, but he put up 55 piece in the same matchup. So I think in tournaments, you have him in your pool. I don't think he's one of those guys that you put in first. Like, if you're a 1 to 3 lineup builder, don't start your builds with Jared Allen. We have many other good plays on the slate to start with. I do think you can start with Russell Westbrook. I think maybe since he busted in this matchup last time, maybe it lowers his ownership. The other thing that's going to lower his ownership is Kyrie's an elite play. The Bucks guys are elite plays. Like, you can't play them all, though. So it's going to force people to go a certain direction. I think that in itself is going to lower ownership on a guy like Russell Westbrook tonight. So I think he's a phenomenal play. I think he's a very safe play as well. I would be very surprised if we saw a similar game to what we saw the last time these two teams played.
Yeah, I mean, the hope is that people see that he kind of busted for the first time in a long time in this matchup, and maybe they stay away from him. But he's been playing some solid basketball. I mean, just a nice high floor. I mean, that 40 fantasy point game to me is a massive outlier, the way he's playing and the amount of minutes that he's getting. So I'm definitely willing to overlook that one. All right, let's move on to the next game. We got the Magic. We have the Grizzlies. 224 total. Memphis favored by a big margin. I mean, 13 points. That's because they're going up against this Magic team. It's just a dead team. They have no interest in winning ball games. But we have a lot of significant injury news here. No Okiki, no Otto Porter, no Carter Williams for Orlando. Terrence Ross is also doubtful. On the Memphis side, Jaren Jackson is obviously out, and then Grayson Allen is doubtful. The Grayson Allen thing is actually pretty significant, a pretty significant injury here because he's playing a decent amount of minutes and they just don't have a lot of wings. So guys like Desmond Bain will step into a bigger role. Dylan Brooks, D'Anthony Melton, I think all get a pretty significant boost at cheap price tags for the most part. Bain is 3.2 on DK. Dylan Brooks 5.4. That's reasonable. D'Anthony Melton 3.9. All very reasonable values on this slate. On the Orlando side, I don't know. I just don't have much interest in Orlando. I mean, they're just such a bad team. Still mixing in a bunch of random guys. The one guy that does stand out, I think, is maybe Mo Bamba, but I'm not overly interested. He'll probably get playing time into the 20s. He can obviously pay off the price tag. He's a guy I think you can put in that MME pool. But my focus here in this game is definitely going to be those wing players for the Grizzlies. Bain, Brooks, and Melton all stand out to me as pretty solid value plays on this slate. What are your thoughts here in this game?
Yeah, I think this is so like one guy that I hope is popular is Gary Harris. Like I think Gary Harris is really bad at basketball. He's coming off a big game, and if he puts up another 30 like a 39 piece like he just did, if he puts up 30 again, he beats me. He beats me. I'm going to bet against him. I hope people look at the box scores and roster him because I don't think he's a good play on the slate. I mean, if you had the perfect lineup and you had 4,400 left in the small forward position or whatever, and you landed on him that way, fine. I mean, it is what it is. Like, don't get off of him because of that. But I do think that there are better plays. Like I could see RJ Hampton outscoring him. I just think even though we have injuries on this Magic side, we're going to see them play all of these guys: Mo Bamba, RJ Hampton, Jackson Randall. They just Mo Wagner now. They have him, Dante Hall. Like all these guys are going to mix into the rotation. I don't think I could see it to where maybe three guys get just over 30 minutes. That's what we saw the last time the Magic played. It was Cole Anthony. I think it was James Ennis and it was Gary Harris, I believe. They just got over 30 minutes, but then they had a pretty wide rotation, even though they had like 10 guys available or whatever for the game. So just because they only have 10 or 11 guys available, they can still play them all, which makes them an unfriendly team to target for DFS. And then on the Grizzlies side, what I'm doing, I think Allen being doubtful and Jaren Jackson being out is I'm working under the assumption that Grayson Allen is going to be out tonight. I think that is significant because one, I think we have two factors going for us here. I think we have a blowout, which probably will happen. Memphis has been playing good. I struggle to see how the Magic are going to score tonight. When you look at Memphis's defense, I don't see the Magic. Like I would be surprised if they get much over 100 points tonight. And so I think we see a lot of D'Anthony Melton off the bench. I think we see a lot of Brandon Clark off the bench. So what I'm doing when I'm messing around with the optimizers, I'm giving those two guys a bump, not like a crazy bump, maybe like a 2 or 3 point bump off of the projection that we already have for them, and just seeing kind of what the optimizer does. If it throws them in there as good value plays, I'm going to roll with it. If not, I'll roll with it as well.
Yeah, I mean the thing with Memphis is like you hear the name Grayson Allen and him being out, you don't think it's very significant, but they just don't have. You look at the roster, they just don't have a lot of wings, so it's going to propel some of those other guys like we talked about into much bigger roles. And Grayson Allen, he's been playing a decent amount of minutes, so he's listed as doubtful. Sounds like he's definitely going to be out, so this will certainly be a spot that we're going to want to attack tonight. But I'm with you though. I'm way more interested in these Memphis guys than the Orlando guys. I mean, you look at the Orlando roster, it doesn't seem like they have a ton of bodies, but they're just like mixing them in and playing whoever they have. 14-point underdogs. I mean, they could just get fully smashed here. I just don't have much interest. Let's move on to the next game. We have the Trailblazers. We have the Nets, 241.5 total. Portland favored by 2.5 in this game. And like we kind of talked about in the opening, last night Kyrie sat, Durant played. Tonight it's the flip. Durant's going to sit, Kyrie is going to play. That to me makes Kyrie Irving one of the better spends on the slate. 9-4 on DK, very fair price tag in this matchup against Portland with a massive total, 241 total. Now, the secondary guys on Brooklyn are clearly in the conversation as well. Sounds like Blake Griffin, they had him listed. Maybe he's going to play. Claxton's still out, Chioza's still out, and obviously Bruce Brown out as well, which is pretty significant. All right, we got the Giannis news; he's officially out, so we'll cover that one when we get there. But on the Brooklyn side, Kyrie, I think, is a phenomenal play. Landry Shamet has been playing a lot of minutes, got 30 minutes last night, 26 fantasy points. I think he is so DiVincenzo's listed out too. He was expected to play. That's pretty big for the Bucks. Okay, we'll talk.
Who was that? Who else is out?
DiVincenzo is also out.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty big. So we'll talk
about
that.
Fade that early game. Fade the early game. There's news that's going to hit.
Yep, absolutely.
It's like clockwork every night.
Yep, Shamet, strong play. The price came up on Joe Harris a little bit. I think he comes in as one of the lower-owned Nets guys. Didn't perform all that well last night. I like him in tournaments. Jeff Green, man, we talked about him on yesterday's show. He just keeps crushing. I mean, yesterday, 32 fantasy points, 32 minutes. He's playing a lot of minutes. Just continues to be super productive. The price has not budged. The guy on the Nets that is going to come in with big time ownership, Alize Johnson, plays yesterday, absolutely goes off. What do you have? 20, I think a 2020 game, 56 fantasy points. He is the flat 3K on DK. He is 3.5K on FanDuel. Probably be the highest owned guy on the slate. Tough fade with what he was able to do yesterday. In terms of the Trailblazers, team's basically at full strength, and that's enough to basically keep me off all these guys. So no interest in the Trailblazers. Obviously, a lot of interest in the Nets team. Talk to me about this game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how you fade Johnson. I mean, he put up, this isn't the first time he's put up a 50 piece this year. I believe he put up 50 against the Jazz back in March. So, I mean, 3K, if he does that again, even if he gets you 30 something, like you're in a tough spot if you don't have him. So I think he is someone you want to go extremely overweight on. Kyrie. So here's the thing about this game. Sure, the Blazers are playing much better right now. They're coming off 2 straight wins. They do have a lot of momentum in their favor. After a little rough stretch that they had, they were not looking good there for a while. But Kyrie and Jeff Green, kind of alone, like Kyrie, they have enough firepower to keep this close. They're getting respect from Vegas. It's only a 2-point spread, a 240 total that keeps climbing up. That I like the overs on. I think we talked about it on the bet show. I could see this game going over. Usually Vegas will post a 240 over because they're trying to scare people off that number, and to see it continue to climb up is indicative to what they think is going to be is what's going to happen here as far as offensive production goes. And then the other thing is we know where it's going to come from. We know it's going to come from Kyrie. We know it's going to come from Jeff Green, from Joe Harris, Landry Shamet even. I mean, he's more raw scoring, but still, he isn't like a guy I love to play, but he did get a price reduction. He's under 4K now. So I do have some interest, but he's a guy, like, if he lands at like 20 something, he's not going to kill you. That's why I think you want to prioritize this Johnson guy, because if he gets 35 or more and he's 3K and you don't have him, it's going to be very tough to win tonight without him. So as far as values go, I would definitely prioritize him over Shamet, but Shamet's 3.9K, very safe play. I would definitely play him over a Gary Harris type. And then I think the lower owned side is going to definitely be the Blazers. But look, like I could see, so if you're looking at box scores, The last two games have basically been kind of blowouts, and Dame hasn't had to do as much. And the Blazers, as we often say, they have a lot of mouths to feed. And so it makes your spend-up guys like Dame Lillard, CJ McCollum, far more risky. But in the right game environment, which we could see tonight, where you got Kyrie going off, it could be an environment where Dame goes off too. So I think if you want to get different in tournaments, if you want to get off of these elite Milwaukee pieces, which might be very tough to do, sprinkle some Dame Lillard in there, sprinkle some CJ McCollum in there. McCollum's only 8-1, and he honestly has the ball in his hands more often than Dame right now. Higher usage rate, the ball, the offense is flowing through him. They're having Dame more so work off ball right now. So you could make the case for either of them, but I do think the Blazers side here is going to be the lower owned side.
Yeah, Blazers side should virtually get like no ownership. I mean, there's nobody that's coming in with any significant numbers. But like you said, I mean, the game was against the Pacers that turned into that massive blowout. These guys totally missed their entire fourth quarter rotation. McCollum, I don't hate at 8-1. These are tournament plays. I mean, no one's going to be on these guys because of all the other solid plays that we have on the slate. And then Alize Johnson, just to touch on him one more time. This isn't your typical 3K guy where you're hoping he goes out there and gets you 15 fantasy points. I mean, the guy just put up 56 fantasy points, not a fluke. Massive, massive upside if he gets similar run again tonight. So keep that in mind when you're building your teams. 3 more games. Just want to touch on the partnership that we have going with Super Draft. Basically, if you go to superdraft.com, use the promo code RUNPEER, you get a deposit match up to $100. The promo code is RUNPEER. Part of our core play section, we modified to accommodate Super Drafts plays. We have a section at the bottom. AP puts his plays in every day. I know Bobby Gomes has been active in putting plays up there. Super Draft specific cores on the core play section of our website. Head on over to Super Draft, use that promo code RUNPEER. That deposit matches up to $100. Bucks, Bulls, 219 total. Milwaukee favored by only 1, and that is obviously because of what we just talked about. No Dante DiVincenzo, and more importantly, no Giannis Antetokounmpo, which makes guys like Drew Holiday a phenomenal play. Coming off a massive game last night where Giannis got hurt, he finished with 62 fantasy points. Chris Middleton, 7.9K on DK. He is also a very solid play. 52 fantasy points for him last night. Bobby Portis is another guy that you can consider. He finished with 37 fantasy points last night. Brook Lopez has a cheap price tag, 4.5K. Then you could potentially go to some of these cheaper secondary guys, Bryn Forbes, Pat Connaughton. I probably prefer the very cheap value plays on Brooklyn over some of these guys. I'm going to focus on the main guys for the Bucks. On the Bulls side, I mean, the only guys I'm really looking at on the Bulls would be Garrett Temple, who is cheap, 3.6K, continues to play a lot of minutes. He's been over 30 in 3 straight games. Nikola Vucevic, 10.1K. I think if you're in tournaments and you're going to play a lot of Bucks guys, he would be the one that I prefer to run it back with. Thaddeus Young has been playing pretty solid minutes. He's 5.1K. I think he is a solid value play tonight as well. What are your thoughts here on this Bucks Bulls game?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The Bucks last night without Giannis, they lost to what looked like a very highly motivated Rockets team, and rightfully so. Kevin Porter Jr. was coming off a really bad game, probably people making fun of him, and then you had Wilson, their other guy, who had a little bit of revenge, a little extra motivation, and Kelly O and company got it done. And I think the Bucks, after that embarrassing loss to a terrible tanking Houston team, I think without Giannis, they get it right. I think Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, it's a smash spot for them. Bobby Portis, revenge playing his former team. I think he's going to smash. He's going to be the guy that goes low owned too. And then Brook Lopez, they're all priced to where I could see all 4 of those guys go off tonight. They all have flame emojis by them. And so I think they're going to be priority plays tonight. I think you're going to want at least 2 of those guys in your builds is kind of how I'm approaching it. But I'm not forcing a run back. So I'm looking at it right now. Kobe White is getting some he's projected to be like 25% owned, to 25 to 30%. I would rather fade him. I think it's a tough matchup against Drew Holiday. Obviously, they weren't good defensively last night against Kevin Porter Jr. and company, but a matchup against Kobe White, Drew Holiday should shut him down. Like I don't, and if Kobe White struggles, look how deep the Bulls are. They have a very, very deep rotation. You could see more Tomas Satoransky. You could see them roll, like you could see them do, roll out many different type of lineups. So how I'm doing it is I'm prioritizing the Bucks side. I'm not making it a run back a priority in my tournament builds. If I get there, I get there. But I'm not saying that if I play 4 Bucks guys that I have to run it back with anyone on the Bulls side. So that's just one thing that I'm doing, just because I think there's better plays. I do think Vucevic is a good play. Without Giannis down there and his size and length in the paint, I think Vucevic is going to have a much better day offensively than if Giannis was in this game. And then I think it's just on the defensive end of the court, it makes it easier on him too. Like Giannis, how he gets buckets is driving into the paint, which brings foul trouble into play. And Vucevic doesn't have to deal with that now. So I do think he is the play that I would look to on the Bulls side. The main thing I'll do, I do think I'll be underweight Kobe White, though. That's one of the main moves that I'll make on the Bulls side.
Yeah, the Bulls still have a significant amount of bodies, a decent amount of guys that they're willing to roll out there. And on this slate where we have all this injury news, it's really hard, I think, to go to some of these guys. I mean, all these Bucks guys, obviously with Giannis out, get a nice boost, but Dante DiVincenzo, that's significant as well, because he's a guy that we've seen this season when Giannis sits, he has a big role on this team, big ball handling responsibility. So I think him out is obviously a massive boost to Drew, massive boost to Middleton as well. The one guy that I don't understand, just looking at projections around the industry and whatnot, like why isn't Bobby Portis popping anymore? Like he's going
to smash.
Yeah,
he's going to absolutely smash.
Really like Portis tonight. And I hope his ownership's low because he's not, showing up big on any of these projections. We'll see. But I mean, you definitely want some exposure to the Bucks tonight. It's a no-brainer situation. And it's kind of turning in, we always talk about, me, you, and Big T talk about it quite a bit, where it's kind of turning into one of those don't get cute sort of slates. Like, just don't overthink this slate. I think you have everything right in front of you. Don't overthink it. Make your teams and move on. Like, just, it's a don't get cute slate for me. Next game, Jazz, Suns, 220 total. Phoenix favored by 4.5. And we have some injury news on the Utah side. No Conley, no Donovan Mitchell. Royce O'Neal is listed as questionable. On the Phoenix side, pretty much at full strength, except Jay Crowder, who is listed as questionable. That is not very significant on the slate. The guys that are showing up as solid plays for me would be Nang, 3.4K, has kind of carved out a nice role here, playing 24, 26 minutes last 2 games, 24 fantasy points, 31 fantasy points, more than enough for his price tag. Jordan Clarkson, the price is up there now, 7.3K. Joe Ingles, 7K. They got these guys priced pretty accurately, so it makes it difficult to really invest in these guys. Niang is the one guy that I have interest in. Could change. If Royce O'Neal's ruled out, it would bump those guys a little bit more. So that's something to keep an eye out for. On the Sun side, tough team, for DFS purposes, and I know we really haven't been on them all that much. Devin Booker, 7.9K on DK, I think is a interesting price tag for him. Ayton, 6.5K, I think he's playable on this slate. Not a building block, but more of a last man type in sort of play. Last time they played Utah, he went off actually for like 45 fantasy points. They'll need his body here, obviously, against Gobert. So Ayton would be my favorite guy on the Suns. Niang would be my favorite guy on the Jazz. Those are most likely the only 2 guys I'm looking at in this game.
I'm just watching your boy Keegan Bradley hole out right now. Wow.
Oh,
like 100. Drops a 2 on a tough par 4. Keegan
love to see that. But what you hate to see is right when we get on the air, our boy Kirky with the triple.
Oh, shit. Don't tell me that. I missed that.
He's done.
No.
He tripled and then followed it up with a bogey to finish like 3 over.
Oh, what an idiot. Hey, Good news. If our guy JT Hayes, if he's watching, good news. Tony Snell is back in the lineup tonight.
Let's go, baby.
JT Hayes, you can play the NBA slate tonight, and your boy, Tony Snell, is playing.
If he hasn't registered for the slate, JT, he better get in now that Snell's in.
So, interesting game here. We saw the Jazz obviously blow out the Kings. I mean, it was they almost put up 150 points against them. The Kings were just worthless defensively. And we saw point guard Bojan. Bojan had the ball in his hands a lot, and he was good. He sported a 31% usage rate. He was scoring buckets with the best of them. And he's the cheapest price guy that I'm looking at on the Jazz side. I mean, if you're comparing him to like Joe Ingles, Jordan Clarkson, who most likely won't start. He came off the bench last time with the success that they had, and with Jordan Clarkson preferring to come off the bench. You got to think that they run with that Ingles, Bojan, lineup. I think if Royce O'Neal is out, it could change. I mean, who else would they start? I mean, they would probably have to start Jordan Clarkson in that scenario. So, I think we do have to have interest in some of these Jazz pieces. You got to think that they can keep it close enough. Even though I don't like matchups against the Suns, I could see Bojan getting there. I think he is the best play. If Royce O'Neal plays, I think he's fine. I think Niang is obviously a really good value to have. Like if you start your lineups with Niang and Johnson, I think you're fine, and you're going to free up a ton of salary with your build tonight. I'd be very okay with going that route. The Suns side is tougher. The one thing I will say is this Jazz lineup is not as good defensively, and so it does make it does bring the Suns side in play. And guys like Chris Paul, Devin Booker are somewhat cheap. They're still I much prefer the Bucks guys to them, but they are under 8K. If you get the right game environment, and if it stays close in tournaments, you could see them have big games. We see it happen all the time. Maybe something weird happens with the Bucks game and these guys go off. I do think it's very thin. I prefer the Bucks side. I prefer the Nets and Blazers game, but you could make a case to stack part of this game up for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, if the news breaks that Royce O'Neal is out, it would potentially bring these guys in play a little bit more. But this is a game, that both these teams are going to be fighting to win. I mean, it's the number 1 seed, the number 2 seed. I mean, these guys are going to be playing to win the game, both sides. And you really can't say that about a ton of games nowadays in the NBA, the way it's set up with the incentive to essentially lose. So one more game, guys. Go ahead and make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It helps us to continue to bring you guys these shows on a daily basis. So please help us out, like and subscribe to our channel. The last game on the slate is not a very good one for DFS purposes. It's the Kings, it's the Lakers, 224.5 total. Lakers favored by 10. And I mean, the big news on the slate and in the NBA in general, LeBron James is slated to return. It was kind of questionable, but then the news came through that he is expected to play. And that, I mean, the Lakers were already a team that we weren't really playing in DFS. This just kind of solidifies that because he's going to be out there not a significant amount of time. Anthony Davis is still working his way back as well. He did get up to 31 minutes. You just know they're not pushing these guys until the playoffs start. This is going to be a coast to the playoff type situation. More times than not, we are going to be fading the Lakers when they're on a slate. On the King side, no De'Aaron Fox, no Harrison Barnes, but this is just a brutal spot against this Lakers team who's returning LeBron James. Halliburton, the price has come up. He's 7.4K. Metu, 3.6K. He thinks somewhat interesting, but I don't think he has the upside. I mean, we have some cheap guys with a lot of upside. Probably won't be going here. In all reality, this game I will be fading. I mean, some people might be on Halliburton. I'm not going there at 7.4K. I think this is a good game to just fade. What are your thoughts on this Lakers-Kings game?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you. Like I was coming in, fading the first game, fading the last game, and just stacking up the middle pieces. On the Kings side, they looked really bad, and you see how much respect Vegas gives LeBron James, whether you like him or not. Vegas get like the spread jumped, like the side jumped almost 3 points. That's significant. That means LeBron is probably playing tonight, and he's not even going to play like that many minutes. Get right spot for the Lakers, who need to get right. And I think LeBron James, if he plays 20 minutes with AD in there too, with this cast that they have now, they're going to smoke them. I don't see how the Kings keep it close. I think they had a chance if LeBron was out, because the Lakers, they really need LeBron. Without him, they suck. With him, they're a completely different team. I mean, again, whether you not like him or not, the guy is good at basketball, very smart player. He makes all of his teammates better. It's just what he does. And if he's in there for 20 minutes, I couldn't imagine playing any of these Kings guys. I see it. And then, with Luke Walton, like, they have so many guys. We could, at the end of it, I bet, what do they have? 14 guys that are available, even though their key guys are out. Yeah, I could see 13 to 14 playing today. And that is not a spot that you want to attack at all, especially in a slower paced game against the Lakers.
Yeah, I mean, they have key guys out, but the fact that he's willing to go so deep into the bench kind of negates the fact De'Aaron Fox is out, Harrison Barnes is out. They have too many guys they can go to. And I agree with you. Like, the first game is probably going to be a fade. The last game is going to be a fade. We did get a little bit of news. Clint Capella is expected to play for the Hawks, and then Trae Young and Bogdanovich are still game time decisions. As it shapes up, I guess once we went through and talked through the slate, I don't think it really matters the status of Trae Young and Bogdanovich. I'm going to be fading that first game regardless. I mean, you kind of already had that approach. I think I'm going to join you because, man, even if those two guys are out, you look at who I'd have to play. No interest. I'm going to be fading that first one as well. All right, any final thoughts here on the slate before we get into the plays?
Yeah, I mean, so the one piece of content that we're working on for Discord members is just that heat map concept. It helps me to kind of dial up my process and where I'm going on the slate. I'll post that here soon. I just was waiting to do the show with you to see where you're at. We'll polish it up. We'll post it in chat. The playbook's already up. Our core plays will be up too. And then news continues to come. Get in Discord. We just got new Colin Sexton's playing. So obviously, Darius Garland, I'm taking him out. I'm not going to play him. Sexton, I don't even know if you need to play him.
Yeah, the prices, man, those guards are priced up. I think it is a slight hit to even, Jared Allen and Kevin Love. I still like Kevin Love, man. If Kevin Love's going to play 35 minutes, I still have some interest in him. All right, before we get to the plays, guys, please do us that favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, have that promo going. RPS Heater 25 gets you 25% off your first payment at Run Pure Sports on a monthly package. That includes our Up to Lock show, part of the premium product, JSU, Holden, breaking down the news and notes of the slate every single day. Up to Lock, like I said, that is a premium show. You'll get access to that with a monthly membership at Run Pure Sports. Head on over runpuresports.com. RPS Heater 25 is the promo. All right, we're going to get into the plays. Moved pretty quickly today. Only two of us, and the slate. We had a few games that we could cross off, but let's go ahead and get into the plays. I'm going to go to AP with the hair gel play of the day. Who do you got for us?
Yeah, so I mean, this play, I kind of tipped my hat to it before. So the last time he faced this team, he put up 35 DraftKings points in just 25 minutes of play off the bench. Tonight, he's going to get a lot more run because a main guy is out of the game. It's Bobby Portis. He's 5.5K. Somehow he's projected to be low owned. I got to think that these ownership projections are wrong because I hope he's going to be low owned because I think he smashes. I think he puts up 40 plus DraftKings points tonight. And he's my play of the day.
Yeah, I love that call. And like I said, just weird that he's not on these projection sites. He's not popping up as a better play, which will keep his ownership down. People are really, really focused in on projection. So his lower projection should be good for us in terms of the ownership. The guy I'm going to go to, I talked a lot about earlier, And this is the 4X play of the day. It's gonna be Kevin Love. Played 35 minutes last game. Have to imagine in this game he should see over 30 again. Good matchup here against the Wizards. Colin Sexton in makes the chance of this game staying close a lot better. I don't think they're at a blowout risk anyway, but Sexton being in should, make the odds of this staying competitive much higher. So give me Kevin Love as the 4X play of the day, getting a lot of minutes. The mid 30s is very encouraging that we saw last game. All right, that is going to do it for the NBA Hardwood show over here at Run Pure Sports. Like I said, JSU, Holden taking you up to lock. Head on over to runpuresports.com to check out those guys. We're going to get on out of here. For AP, I'm Hoop. Good luck tonight in your contest.
Cheers, everyone.